Hello, and thank you for coming to the 10th Annual Lake County Film Festival. My name is Nat Dykman, and this is the Q&A for Una Great Movie. And we are really excited to have the director, writer-director, producer, actress. I don't know what else she might have done. She'll probably tell us. But hello, Jennifer Sharp. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you.
Cool. What else did you do? Craft service?
I was writer, director, producer, I was actress, I was editor, I was production designer. I was and then post-production supervisor, everything. Yeah. Pretty much getting it all the way to the end. I did the ambient sound mixing.
Nice.
I did the VFX. I pretty much did it all. And I tried not to, but I got two VFX artists who completely dropped the ball, both of them. And at a certain point, I was like, I guess I just have to do this myself. So I went on to lynda.com, which is great. You can learn a lot, and learned Mocha and did my effects. And they're pretty good. They're not the most intensive effects. So but I'm like, I did a good job.
Sure. On my film, I had a bunch of small things. We ended up just posting on Facebook, and 5 different people showed up. Let me ask you, what's the one thing you wish you had someone else to do for your film?
Oh my God, the one thing?
If you could only get one person to do one thing.
Wait, I know. I was like, that's so funny. I can't even, that's like so, I mean.
So that seems like cheap. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything besides producing.
Yeah. Well, I can't say investing the money. An investor, it's my money too.
Raising money, yes.
Yeah.
For me, it was prop master. I mean, every movie I'm sure is different, but prop master, I can't keep track of things, and I had to drive out to multiple places all the time, and for me that was it. Actually, I've totally broken my whole sort of chronology here, but that reminds me, this will just be all crazy and random, but tell me a moment of kismet where you thought something went wrong when you were making the movie and it turned out to be better.
Okay. So I'll tell you, there's so much like that, but I lost, when I was in Los Angeles, the guy who plays Brian Alonzo, suddenly 2 weeks before the shoot, got another gig in Panama. And he came to me and he was like, Jen, and we already shot his stuff in Mexico. So he was not going to be there for the shoot. And I just looked at him, and it's all my actors are so great. It's so low budget. He had an opportunity in Panama. And I'm like, I was like, I know I can't ask you to not do the opportunity. I wouldn't do that. You should do it. And he was like, no, but I want to make sure we can make this work. What if I could shoot the next day, whatever. So I had to end up adding a whole nother day onto the shoot and shooting all his stuff in one day. And I wrote him out of a scene to make it work. And we had to trust that his flight from Panama was going to be on time, because it was and then the crew now had to work 6.5 days straight with no break, and it was but so that was kind of a thing. But then he said, but what do you need? How else can I help you? And I was looking for a bar. We lost the bar because I had a bar for the day he was going to be there, but now he's not there. We can't get that bar anymore. So he goes, I work at a bar in Hollywood. I will tell my manager to do me this favor, and you guys can shoot there for free. And I was like, okay, so you're going to replace the bar. Yeah, you'll be able, use your bar scene for that. So we went to scout the bar, and the bar had a back room with light, with a fog machine and colorful lights, like a Las Vegas magic show. And there's a magic show in my movie. There's a scene where the script guru is kind of like a magician, and I always wanted it to be like a Las Vegas magic show with colored lights and smog, but I could never afford that ever. So I had been telling people I really want a magic show, but I don't know how we're going to shoot this because I can't afford a smoke machine and laser lights and all that. And we got to this free bar, and in the back room they have all of it with a technician and everything for full smoke, full colored lights. And I got exactly what I wanted, a huge Vegas magic show scene.
Wow. Independent film is so difficult, and so many people have so many problems with adversity. I try to ask that because sometimes adversity can really help you out,
Yeah. Yeah.
So where did you get the idea for Una Great Movie?
The inspiration is the island in Mexico. I've been going there for 20 years and I know the people really well. And I really wanted to share that island and those people in a movie and like what they've done to me. They're actually friends of mine. And so that was my inspiration to shoot there. And that was actually 20 years ago when I first went to that island. And ever since then, I've wanted to make a movie there. So it's been 20 years. And then 16 years later, I realized I had not made that movie yet. And I've talked about it every year. And so 16 years later, I was like, I guess I'm just going to have to do everything myself because no one's going to do it, and use my money, my credit cards. And I did that. I raised all my credit card limits. I took my life savings. I had $100,000 between credit cards and cash. And I was like, I'm just going to make this movie because like it's been like the goal of my life and I'm going to do it. So that was my inspiration. And then the script kept changing. And then because it was so, because I didn't have a lot of money, like I had to do something really easy. So I just used a lot of locals as actors, and which I wanted to do anyway, you know. And I was like, so I just tried to make it like as budget friendly as possible, and like wrote the script around the townspeople. So
it's funny. I think a lot about how perceptions are so different based on class. You know, poor people might steal something and get locked up, but businesses might steal millions from their employers and from their employees, and they don't. And it's so funny to hear the independent people say, well, I had to work with non-actors, but if a star, if Chloe Zhao, who just made Nomadland with Frances McDormand and Peter Strathern, you know, she used non-actors around them. And for her, you know, with Sony money, it's an artistic choice that lends the movie this authenticity. But you know, if we do it out of necessity, we have to like make excuses for it. No, they're great. You don't have to make apologies for them at all.
Yeah, no, they're awesome. They're the best. I mean, and I did want to always use local Mexicans as well. Like I wanted to use the locals, but in what aspect I wasn't sure. But yeah, and the Actors Union, I'm not a fan of.
yeah, that too. You know, what were your influences in creating this story and also in directing it and putting it together?
So I think Monty Python has been a big influence for me my whole life, and that humor. And so an example is like I always remembered the scene on The Life of Brian where Brian's hanging on the cross. And I always remembered it wrong because I remembered it, and this was like a big inspiration for like the writers group. And I showed it when we were doing rehearsal. I showed them the scene, and when I actually watched it, it had been years since I watched it, and I remembered it totally wrong. But how I remembered it was that like, well, it doesn't even matter. I won't go into those details. But basically, in Monty Python, there's always this like innocent guy, like even in with the coconut, you know, where they're doing the coconut thing, the Holy Grail. There's always like the lead character who's kind of like innocent and normal, and everybody else around them is crazy. So when I did the LA part, I told Jonelle, the actress who played Zoe, that I was like, you're in an absurd world of producers and people telling you these things that are just absolutely absurd, but you have to be the normal one. Like that's kind of what I'm trying to portray, is that reality is absurd. And that's the Los Angeles part. But I'm like, I want the Mexico part, which is a script, to be the most real, to prove that like everything in your mind is actually more real than the reality we live. So I used like the Monty Python feel. Like I wanted the vibe of like she's in this crazy, absurd reality where weird things keep happening. The lady with the big lips, the guy who all looks the same, you know, and all that. And meanwhile, she's just trying to get her script made. So that was kind of like a big theme that I had in my head.
When I asked about what sparked it, I was wondering how much of that was basically real life experiences that you had in LA.
It's like 100% real life experience. In fact, even there's a scene where she gets advice from the script person, this woman, and she's like all plastic surgeryed out, and she's like actually scary herself, but she's the woman who's giving her advice is saying, you have too many Mexicans in your story. You know, like, and I feel like I'm going to get, you know, I feel, you know, uncomfortable. And so I wrote the screen based on actually somebody telling me something like that. And I had actually recorded the meeting. So when I got the actress to play that role, I brought her over to my apartment and I showed her the meeting I had with the woman to be like, this is who I'm gearing you off of. And there was a thing the woman said that I didn't write in the script. And what she said was, oh my God, it reminds me of a den of narcos. I feel like I'm going to get murdered in my sleep or something. And I had forgotten, like, I didn't remember that line. I just kind of wrote, and when the actress saw that, she was like, we have to put that line in the movie. And I was like, oh my God. She was like, that's crazy that she said that. And I was like, okay, that's your job. Like, put it in your scene. Like, when we shoot it that day, make sure to say that line. And she did. And it's a crazy line. It was actually said, like, word for word.
I really like films with sociopolitical undertones, but one thing I really liked about your film is how you don't really make them undertones. You just basically spell it out, you know?
Yeah.
Some of those, a lot of that LA stuff kind of reminded me of Entourage, you know, the absurdity of Hollywood, but yet it plays so differently to when it's white people being told they have to change their script for stupid reasons versus when you're being told that.
Yeah.
Was that, you know, I don't know what the question is. Do you have anything?
That's interesting. I love Entourage. I mean, I love, you know, because it's just like Hollywood, you know, is a thing. I mean, it's a thing, and it's just, and it really is, and it's a lot about image, and it's really not a lot about soul and content, and it's become, you know, money, and and so everybody's trying to make money, so it's become like a factory. So everybody, you know, the cooler you are, the better people think you are. You might not actually be a good actor, like an entourage, you know, whatever, but like if you act cool, you have your entourage. And it really is like that. It's really absurd. It's really disheartening, depressing, and absurd, honestly, this film industry as an industry. And so yeah, and so I put that in mind too. Like, it is. And that's the thing, regardless of what color you are. I mean, I think even like for a white man, it's hard. It's a hard industry, but it's then you add color and gender and things, and it gets even harder.
I showed, hang on just a second, I'm sorry. My closing night film last year was called 52577, and it's about a filmmaker from our area, which is the middle of nowhere, who dreams of going to Hollywood. And somebody tells him in the movie, there's nowhere less conducive to finding your dreams than Hollywood.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm on my way out. I mean, like, and now that everything's so virtual, you really don't have to be here. Like, you know, you can really enter things online, to classes online. I mean, meet people. Like, so I'm from Ohio originally. I lived in New York City for 10 years. I've been in LA now for 16 years. And I'm pretty ready to leave. Like, you know, like, I feel like I could do just as well and be doing just as much stuff outside for the most part. I mean, if you want to be in the TV world, you should, you know, be here. There's a lot of like television jobs, but as far as like creating films and creating your own content and things like that, you know, you can always come back too.
And equipment too. You don't have to be in LA to get first equipment anymore. It's almost anywhere, you know, and the price is down so much. And
exactly. And locations are cheaper anywhere else. I mean, it's so expensive to shoot in LA. It's so expensive. I mean, I shot my film in Mexico, you know what I mean? Like, I can only shoot like 6 days here in LA, and that was rough. Like, I'm planning on shooting my next film in Ohio, I hope, you know, and I just know it's going to be so much more cost effective. Like, people are going to be happy to let me use their location, you know, if I pay them $500 for a day or something, you know. And here it's like, you know, $5,000 a day for a location, $2,000 a day for a location. And then you got to get a fireman and a policeman, or, you know, depending, you got to get a permit from the city. It's like all this stuff.
I was actually surprised when you mentioned how much you spent going down to Mexico. We had a film earlier this weekend called Cabarete, which is somebody from the Dominican Republic who went to USC and then went back to make his movie. And he said people there that he was using, you know, not for experienced crew, but they make $250 a week. Yeah,
I paid my crew. I paid my crew pretty much $300 a week in Mexico, and but I had a pretty big crew. I mean, I think I had like 40 people from Mexico City, and we had a pretty big crew. I had around 40 people, and it was like a 20-day shoot.
Wow.
But we paid them $300 a day. But in Mexico, they have this thing where it's like you work 6-day weeks, but you have to end the 6th day early and throw a party. And like, that's the truth. That's true. So when my producer from Mexico City came, like that I got to like run it, he was like, well, this is what we do. And so part of his production was like finding where we're going to have the party every Saturday.
It sounds like a mafia.
I have to supply the beer, and I have to like I throw a party at every. But it's kind of cool though, because everybody kind of just starts drinking together at the end of a tough week. And
it sounds like Goodfellas.
Yeah.
I dug into your IMDb a little bit, and I feel like you have, it's only across 2 features, but I feel like you've done the reverse of the typical career. It looks like you started directing a film that you didn't write.
Yes.
Right. And now you want, most first timers, or most of the people I deal with are first timers, and they want to write and they want to direct, and they're stuck producing and everything else. But you already made a feature, a decade ago where you didn't write. And I don't know if you produced or anything like that. You feel like the opposite trajectory.
It is. And it's surprising. So I directed this film. I edited it as well, but and it was an indie, and it did great. We won like 15 awards, I think, and we won best film at like a lot of festivals, and we got distribution. We were on Showtime for a couple, and back then, when that was a little more exclusive. I mean, it's still exclusive. Like, I'm not on Showtime with my movie now, but anyway, we were on Showtime and for 2 years, and they bought it for 2 more years because we did so well. So it did really well. And I was pretty sure I'd get offered more directing work from there. And so I was here in LA, and it just didn't work like that. Like I still couldn't get an agent. I couldn't get a manager. I couldn't get another directing job. And so that was in 2007. And I started this in 2016. So basically 10 years later, I realized I guess it doesn't work like that. Just because you did a good movie that did well, like still not getting offers. And, so I realized I had to do my own film, and it was a sad realization, but it's true. And you hear the people saying it too. Just because you do one film doesn't mean you're going to get hired to do other ones. It's just like an uphill battle completely.
So how's the film been for you? Traveling around, showing it to people?
It's been awesome. It's been great. I feel like the timing for COVID was pretty much blessing for me. It definitely could have been a better timing if it was like a year later. I think I actually had a theatrical release I was going to do that I had worked out with AMC Movie Chain, and I was supposed to open in movie theaters in July. But that's all gone. So to put that's not all perfect, but I did get like 6 months, 7 months of a festival run before everything shut down. So I did get to see it in movie theaters and see it with audiences, and won a bunch of awards. I think I've won like 7 awards now with it. And that was really great. And seeing the audience reaction is awesome and different. Like I did the New York Latino. So I've shown it to Latinos, New York Latino Festival. I've shown it at Black festivals. I showed it at Brooklyn, which is more white people. I showed it in Mexico City. So I've shown it with a bunch of different audiences, and it's really fun to watch with different audiences because they all like it, have responded really well, and they laugh at different parts.
Did you get to show it to the people where you shot?
I did. In October, I shut down the town center, and I brought in a screen because there's no movie screen there from Playa del Carmen. I brought a screen in, I shut down the town center, and like 300 people from the town came to the town center, and I showed the movie. And that was pretty awesome.
You have very similar. I could have done a Q&A with you and Ivan from Cabarete because he had the exact same story. He filmed somewhere where they had no theaters, and they had to set something up, and definitely check that out. If you
I will. I'll watch his Q&A and the movie. It looks cool.
Yeah, cool. So what's next for the film?
So right now I'm pretty much kind of at the end, trailing off the festival thing, and it's looking like self-distribution. It's a quirky film that doesn't really fit in any boxes. It's not like your normal film, and so I found like with distributors, they don't really know where to put this movie, and distributors are used to saying, we're looking for a comedy that is urban. We're looking for a this, that's that. And like this Una Great movie doesn't fit into any boxes. So I have learned that I don't think typical Hollywood distribution is going to be for this film, but luckily there's online distribution and stuff. So I'm going to figure it out and do, Amazon, iTunes, all that stuff, self-distribution at some point.
Have you been able to get an in to? I know we talked briefly about distributors, but have you been able to get an in at HBO?
I have not.
To
I have
just
not.
get someone to see it, because I've just
Yeah.
realized, talking about this, I realized that the two things it reminds me most of is Entourage and Insecure.
Yeah, that's been the frustrating thing, is that it's really like how, like, I'm also kind of sitting on it because Corona just kind of made you stop anyway, like the quarantine. So I'm just kind of sitting and seeing what reopens. But I also didn't want to, like, I would like a face-to-face, or, virtual, like a meeting with somebody from HBO, from Netflix, from Amazon Originals or whatever, from Hulu, like, because I would love that. And it's surprisingly hard to get. And right now it's even harder because all those streaming platforms are going for studio movies and celebrities right now because of the coronavirus. Like, they have their pick of everything, and they're dealing now with studios, and their guidelines do not really include indie films right now, unless you were at Sundance or Toronto or whatever. So that's been frustrating, because I'm like, I hate to give up too. Like, I would love to talk to somebody at HBO and not just send a random link. Like, with this, it's like, you got to know somebody who like you can talk to and kind of pitch it. And that's what I'm waiting for, hoping still might happen.
It's so silly. They should be looking
for
more inexpensive content, especially since they're just, not Netflix and not Amazon, but all the new players should be looking to pick up as much content as they can, or somebody should be.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, and it's actually even harder. I mean, it's harder for the big ones. It's harder for Netflix, Amazon. I mean, there are other small ones there are smaller ones that I could get in. Like, I was offered one, and I'll probably do that when I self-distribute. I mean, because it's more like, but that's more like just, I get paid a certain amount per view. And so that'll be part of like the release. But as far as the ones that actually buy it and put it on, and you think, like Showtime or whatever, but it's like, no, they're not interested in indie films from what I'm finding. And I'm also not able to get to anybody. Like, I'm not.
It's so hard to break in.
It's so hard.
And
I have a couple connections. I know a few celebrities. Like, I've met some people throughout the years, and I was waiting till the right time to like reach out to them. And I was pretty sure that would pan out too. Like, I know a celebrity who has plenty of his content on Netflix. And so I finally reached out and was like, okay, I've done this, and he actually didn't help me at all. Like, nobody that I know who has connections has ended up helping. And that's been really a surprise too. So, yeah.
What's next for you beyond this film?
So beyond this film, I've put together a documentary about the making of this movie from my crowdfunding campaign, which I followed myself to Mexico because I basically am a one-woman show making this movie, and I went to Mexico. I used all my money. A town of Mexicans got behind me. So I was putting videos up once a week for the first 8 months until I was in Mexico shooting, trying to keep getting money from people. And then from those videos, I've actually continued through post-production, through distribution, through film festivals, through taking it back to the town. And I have enough content that's really interesting to, I'm working on putting together like a 4-part docuseries about that. And it sounds like a filmmaking documentary, but it's actually not. Like, the documentary won a prize at the Roxbury Film Festival, and like people who know nothing about filmmaking loved it. I mean, like, this woman was just like, it's so inspirational, because it's really more about chasing your dreams than like behind the scenes of making a movie. It's about, this is what you do when you just want to chase your dream. And so I'm finishing that and see what happens. And then I'll be in the same boat with that I am with this, which is like, now what?
That's that perfectly sums it up. Now what? Yeah, I don't. That's all the specific questions I got.
Cool. No, it's cool. It's nice to talk about it. It's fun to talk about it, and I'm figuring it out. So my website is unagreatmovie.com, and I actually have a YouTube channel, Jennifer Sharp Films, that has a bunch of my episodes of making the movie, including the episodes where I took the film back to the town and showed it to the town. That's episode 50. I have 54 episodes. So like, that's a cool way to kind of keep track of the movie, and maybe check out the movie when it comes out, when I distribute it.
I was going to post a link in the comments for your website. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you.
It covers, it covers all the bases. Like following your dreams is big. It's a big for our mission. This festival started from a similar dream as well. Just an idea that I would give my area that didn't really have any independent film, an outlet to, interact with independent film in a way that they hadn't before, and especially filmmakers. That's key. That's absolutely what we're all about, is these philosophical discussions and practical discussions, and just getting to experience different things.
Yeah, and how you just got to do things. You just got to do and not be afraid. I mean, I wish I would have known this like 10 years ago. Like I would have just done this on my own 10 years ago. Like, I guess it takes time to get the courage or the desperation to finally do that thing you want to do. But then you do it and you're like, you know what? It is doable, and everything's really doable. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on doing it.
Thank you. And thank you for selecting the film. And I was saying, like, all the other movies look really good, a lot of them. So I'll look forward to checking them out this week.
Cool. Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, everyone.